Time to make you a holiday baking superstar with my Icebox jam cookies. I take one simple dough recipe and turn it into 3 completely different cookies. And that's exactly where I want to start with this Icebox cookie dough. What I have here is a cup of unsalted butter. I want to beat it a little bit just to smooth it out. Now that my butter is fluffy, I'm going to sift 1 cup of icing sugar and then add that. And I have to confess, I get a little nostalgic about this Icebox cookie recipe because it's inspired by my grandmother's recipe. I'll drop in the sifted icing sugar, and I'll start on low speed and then increase the speed and beat this until it's nice and fluffy. All right, now I add a single egg. I always start with a teaspoon of vanilla extract. But then you can really get varied with your flavors. For my orange, I'll add the zest of an orange. And I'll give this a little blend just to combine everything together. Okay. Now it's time to add the flour, 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. There we go. And lastly, ½ a teaspoon of salt. And I'll blend it again on low speed until the dough comes together. Here we go. Once the dough comes together, then you want to shape it according to how you're going to bake it. So for my orange Icebox cookie, I'm going to shape it into 2 discs, and I'm actually going to make an orange marmalade crumble bar from this Icebox cookie dough. So I've got it into 2 discs here. I'll wrap this up. And then it has to chill down. The great thing about a good Icebox cookie recipe is that you can freeze the dough. So you can make it a month, 6 weeks, 2 months ahead of time. So what I do is I pop a label on there, and sometimes I even put on the baking instructions. All the hard work is in making the doughs. The baking, well, that's the fun part. And that's what it's time to do. I've got my orange Icebox cookie dough that's already chilled. And now, this may seem kind of kooky, but I'm going to grate it. This is how I turn this cookie dough into a crumble bar. So I just use a regular box grater, and just like you're grating cheese, you just grate the cookie dough. There we go. I've got an 8-inch pan, greased and lined with parchment. So what I want to do is press in about 2/3 of the dough, but spread it in the bottom of the pan. And this layer you want to press quite firmly and make it as level as you can. Now I need my jam, which in this case is orange marmalade. I mean, a classic holiday flavor. And I use a cup to spread over top of this crumble base. Of course, you can switch up the flavors, whatever flavor jam your family prefers. This top layer, you just loosely press. You don't want to lose that crumbly character by pressing too firmly. I bake these at 325, and they take about 45 minutes. They turn a nice golden brown around the edge, and then you want to let them cool completely before you slice them. Here are my marmalade bars completely cooled. You do want to cool them before you cut them. And before I do slice them, I like to give them a little dusting with icing sugar. This is a nice simple recipe because with 1 square pan, you get 36, 3 dozen bite-sized little cookies. Just gorgeous. They cut so nicely. You see that base, you've got the marmalade center, the crumble on top, just inviting you to take a bite. But not yet. I have 2 more Icebox cookies to make. So I'm gonna set this aside. I want to make my apricot lemon rugula. So what I did was make that exact same Icebox cookie recipe, and instead of orange zest, I added lemon zest. And I shaped it into 6 individual discs. This is my starting point for my textbook crescent shape to the rugula. Got a little flour, and I'll grab my baking trays. Just a light dusting of flour. What I'm going for is a circle that's about 8 inches across. I have a tart ring, and you want something that's about 7 inches across. And then whether with a paring knife or this cutter, trim away the edges. I'll take a pastry cutter and divide it into 4 at first, and then cut each into wedges. Now, I spoon a little apricot jam at the wide part of each wedge, and I'll just use 2 spoons. Just a little spoonful of the jam, and I find by the time I'm done, I've used about 3/4 of a cup of jam. Then I take each wedge and just roll it from the wide end towards the narrow, just like a little crescent. Once you get going, it really doesn't take that long. There's something different about holiday cookies than your sort of Tuesday night, any night of the year cookie. They tend to be a little smaller, a little more buttery, and it's worth that extra effort because it is all about that holiday spirit of sharing. So now I have my 4 dozen cookies, and what I like to do to give them a little polish and a nice little shine is brush them with a bit of egg wash. Just an egg whisked with 2 tablespoons of water, and then I finish them off with a sprinkling of cinnamon sugar. Now, just like my marmalade bars, these bake at 325. They only take about 18 minutes. Here are my cooled roulade. They're so adorable, but it's just one of 3 different styles, all made with the same Icebox cookie dough. So I'm not done yet, I still have one left. And I don't think a single holiday season goes by without my making Linzer cookies. So what I do is take that basic Icebox cookie dough, and I leave out the citrus, but I add a teaspoon of almond extract. I shape this dough into 2 discs. One disc is for the bases, and the other disc is for the tops. You can knead it just a little bit to soften it up. Nice little light dusting. And I roll this out to about 1/4 inch thick, right? And for my Linzer cookies, I'm going with a 2-inch fluted cutter. Gives it nice detail. And the great thing about this cookie dough recipe is it does re-roll easily. So any scraps you have left over, gather them up and roll them again. Go, last of the cookies, but I'm not quite ready for the oven yet. I have 1 tray that's the bases, and for the tray that's going to be the tops, I use a small cutter and cut out a little hole in the center of each. These are so small, they only take 12 minutes at 325, and I'll keep an eye on this tray with the cutouts because I may pull that out a minute sooner. These are so great. It's no wonder that my grandmother loved this recipe. Everything holds its shape, ideal for decorating. The finishing touch before you put the jam inside your Linzer cookies is to dust the tops with icing sugar. And I'm going for the classic filling, a raspberry jam. Spread a little jam in and then top with that cutout cookie. Cookie stardom. Now, let me bring over this beautiful platter. You know, holiday time is the time to bring out the big platters that you don't use on an everyday basis. And you know, with these 3 types of recipes, you end up with over 9 dozen cookies.